front of you. So, but anyway, I'd love this to be interactive. I'm going to show you Sway. If you think of, OneNote is a relatively new product for a lot of people, but I think of it as it's gone off to college. It's like an 18-year-old right now. Sway, still wearing diapers, little 12-month-old, nothing. It's crawling around the floor. So we're getting, it's growing up quickly though. So I wanted to sort of take a brief, quick tour over what Sway is. I first want to ask though, who here has seen Sway already? And who's created their own Sway? And who's created lots of Sway? Oh, right. This is a pretty great crowd. Okay, so I'm just going to show you a little bit of the product, and then we'll sort of go into a discussion. Okay, so obviously Sway is a brand new member of the Office family, and it's sort of a peer to Word and Excel and PowerPoint and OneNote. A lot of people ask me today, like, okay, sure, it's a peer, but what does it make? I mean, Word, we know, makes all sorts of document types, reports and so on, statements of work. PowerPoint, we all know, does presentations and all sorts of other, diagramming type things. Sway, what does it do? Well, it's an interesting question because what it does is it makes a new thing, and we call it a Sway. That's not because it's got a file format of Sway or something like that. It makes a interactive, adaptable, responsive to devices, digital document. It's digitally authentic in the sense that it doesn't have like a print-based representation, the way really Word and PowerPoint started way back being print and 35mm slides, and that's where the inspiration came from. And in fact, the whole way you create documents and slide decks is fundamentally about positioning things on the paper or slide. And then since then, we've obviously made those products better for digital work and all the things that we do. And obviously, Mix is a great example of taking PowerPoint to a whole new level. But with Sway, what we did was we said, let's start from blank and say, if you're going to create a new content creation, sharing, expression, service tool, whatever it might be, in the 21st century, second decade of the 21st century, what would you do? And the idea, of course, you start thinking, well, what are the constraints around that we have to meet now? What are the expectations? One expectation is you can no longer count on everybody having an 8.5 by 11 viewing surface, or A4, or whatever it might be. Everyone uses phones. There's phones from 4 inches, 6 inches, there's phablets, there's tablets, there's laptops, there's really big screens. What we did before the mobile revolution, everybody kind of said, well, I can just kind of zoom my fixed layout on different sizes. You get that PDF file. It kind of works on your 27-inch monitor, it kind of works on your 11-inch laptop. But you can't really screw around like that anymore in a mobile world because it just isn't working. If you try to look at a PowerPoint, a PDF, I should say, on your phone, it's really a pinch zoom nightmare, right? We're trying to pan across the whole thing. And of course now we're talking about watches and even smaller things. It starts to become more ridiculous that you could take this essentially paper-based type of output that we've made before. And you see this in the web. People are trying to make responsive websites, but you really have to have kind of a coding team in order to make a responsive website. It's not a thing an ordinary person could make. And what we're trying to do with Sway is we'll say, first one, got to be able to create something that works across all devices, and I don't have to worry about it. I want to have to go verify that it works okay. It should just work without me thinking about it. That's the number one thing. Next thing is, if you're really going to create things, especially on devices that don't have keyboards or that are very small, you can't create by forcing people to drag things around and applying font sizes and all the kind of nitpicky stuff that you have to do to make great-looking content in the traditional tools. So we really wanted to invert the model for creating content in Sway, and I'm going to show you a bit of that if I get to the demo part. But the idea is we always start you off with a completely finished product. And at any point you can say, I'm done, I like this, it's good. You can't have an inconsistently formatted Sway because we guarantee consistency. We also built in our own designer algorithms, essentially. We work with our own design team to kind of encode the rules of design and put them into the Sway so that although you may not like the particular aesthetic of a single Sway, you can always find one you do like. And it's a matter of just browsing the variety rather than having to manually adjust, which is the traditional way. So Sways are, like it says here, a dynamic, interactive canvas. Very clever. But really, and this is just showing that, we can host videos. I'm not going to play that right now. Here's a comparison interactable We have a library that's growing of these kind of interactive elements. Here's an animated GIF. Here's a live tweet that I could, if I hover over it, you can see that the buttons actually work, and I can play this video inside the tweet that I embedded if I want to. This one is not working right now. Let me retry it. Oh, there we go. So this is like an interactive photo gallery where I've selected, in this case, to show thumbnails along the bottom, but there's lots of these sort of interactive components. Here's an embedded PowerPoint that I can just browse through. And of course, this is running the PowerPoint web app, much like Mix does when you're viewing a PowerPoint in a Mix. And it's just embedded right here. Now, a lot of this is, some of these things are plain old internet embeds, so in some ways, nothing fancy. But if you think about it, what sort of easy-to-use end-user tool is there that lets you gather this stuff and arrange it in the way you like? And some of these things are not like that. Some of these, like this film strip thing, are native Sway interactables. And we have a growing library, like I mentioned. So I talked about how it works across all these different device types. And why did we make it? Well, there's so much media going on. So another reason we wanted to build Sway is we could see that people's expectations for what good-looking content looked like, engaging, valuable content looked like, have been climbing. If you think about all the mobile apps that you run or the websites you visit, increasingly they're just fancier and better looking and they're more interactive. And if you think back to, some of us remember the desktop publishing revolution where you went from, you couldn't really make something that looked nice, like the printed stuff you would get from professional publishing services. And then all of a sudden you had a laser printer, you got PageMaker and fonts, and you could pretend to be a desktop publisher and actually make something nice. And it was kind of interesting because it felt like you were catching up with the pros. Well, the pros have left us all in the dust recently. You try to use, our own tools, Word or PowerPoint, it's hard to make something that looks amazing. And it's not like somebody else has a better option. Most of the other competitors to Office are actually less capable of making something good. And it's just frustrating to try to make something good. And for me, one of the reasons it gets me excited about building software is I like to think about how people feel while they're using it. And I personally have this feeling of like inadequacy when I'm using authoring tools today. And I have this tension that rises over time of the more time I put into this, it's going to get incrementally better, but it's a diminishing returns. And it's probably not going to look amazing at the end, and I'm going to feel like I wasted all that time. So I'm not going to actually put any effort into it because I'm just going to go with the defaults because it's too much work. That's not a great feeling. I'd rather have a different feeling of like, this is pretty amazing. Can I make it more amazing? And that's what we're trying to do with Sway. It just starts out pretty good, and it's going to get better from that point onward. So gathering media is really a hard thing to do today. I'll show you how we do that in Sway. Just making sure stuff looks good, media, audio, video, and so on. So there's feeds, and there's lots of stuff going on. Let me just move on here a bit. So here's sort of the, what we do in Sway. And one thing I really like, super basic behavior, but any sort of picture you see here, you can tap and make it the focus of the discussion. So it's automatically built into Sway that you can sort of drill in for a little bit more information or take a moment to set things apart and talk about them. So here, creating something new, easily add content, and effortless design, that's kind of our value proposition. Just going to pop back out of that and keep going. And you notice I'm using touch to navigate. We intentionally designed Sway to be great for touch, for consumption, and for creation. Like I mentioned, if you're going to create something on a phone and you want it to look good, at least complex in a good way, like there is a lot of work and craft put into it, then you're not going to be futzing with positioning and stuff. You're going to have to get some assist. And so the idea of Sway is we start you out, well actually here's some samples, maybe I'll show you this in a second. I'll show you how we start in a second. Here's a great Sway that I like, someone made for teaching basically quadratic functions. And it's actually a built-in Sway. I've embedded a Sway within a Sway. Some people call this Swayception. That fold the universe on top of itself, but you can embed Sways within Sways within Sways until your machine melts, basically. But so what this is a Sway that, and of course I can full screen it if that makes it easier to see. And so this is, somebody took GeoGebra, which is this online tool for making graphs and interactive experiences. And one of the nice things about, oh, there we go. Oops, sorry. One of the nice things about Sway, as I mentioned, is that we don't have to do all the fun, fancy graphing functions. We just let you put in GeoGebras. And so this teacher decided to make it interactive sway for doing a lecture in their middle school class. And one of the things I like about this, you see they're clipping ink cards out of probably OneNote. Actually, as an aside for this group, one of the ideas we're thinking about is just making it easy to dash off handwritten cards that go into Sway like this, so you can sort of build up a sort of set of note cards or just annotations like that. But here's an actual embed of the GeoGebra site, and so you can say show the graph, and it's kind of a fun feature. You can say give me a new equation, and you can ask the class what do you think that's going to look like, where's the turning point going to be, where's the axis of symmetry, okay, and so on. So all that is not a Sway feature, but the fact that you can incorporate it in your document or your presentation or whatever a Sway is one of the value props of Sway. So I'll pop out of that again. Here's another one that I like a lot. This is actually showing a prototype of a future Sway type that we can make. Just right, I'm showing you now, I'm showing you a horizontally scrolling Sway. The one I just showed you was a vertically scrolling Sway, and those are the two that you can make today. But there's actually many more types because the way Sway stores information is actually structured. We keep track of the order and the relative importance of different items and what you group together. And so that gives us, if you know much about information presentation, it's sort of the dream of people who do information visualization that you get structured data, because now we can do stuff with it. So here's a different visualization entirely, where we've grouped pictures with a group of information, text and images, and I can now tap on any one of these and flip it around and get the text and images. Wow. And so I can have now random access to any of these objects, and you can certainly imagine something more interesting than state flags and all things, but you know, now I can jump right in. And so Sways are linear, they're partially nonlinear, they're fully nonlinear. There's no limit to our visualization capability, just we have to go build them. And they take a few developers a few months to really polish up each one. We're going to come up with one more this summer, and there'll be one more this fall, possibly this one actually. But if you go to our website, we've actually got a sort of 3D fly-through one. Maybe I'll even show you that, I think. It might be here. Because that one is pretty cool. But the point is that there's, once you have this flexibility, you don't have to, oh, here it is, yeah, okay. So let me show you this red panda. This is on our website if you want to play with it. These you can't make today because we just like them so much we're keeping them to ourselves. No, they're not fully baked. They were done as a sort of hackathon. And so the thing I'm about to show you was done in 3 days, built on top of the Sway engine. It's not complete, so it doesn't handle all the navigation edge cases. But this is a 3D version of a Sway. And I can now go across the chapters of my paper. This is a 7th grade paper on red pandas, and I can drill in. I'm just tapping. Let me focus on that red panda photo. I'm going to go behind. And you know, Sway's taking care of the layout and the animations. The person who built this didn't do anything with layout and animations except approve. Try some others. Approve. They don't have to manually do this. Now, notice that's a pretty different model than how pretty much every other authoring tool out there works. And we're doing an experiment this way where we're trying to figure out, our hypothesis is that most people, our hypothesis is that most people don't have a fixed idea in their mind of what the output is, but they know good stuff when they see it. They have taste. They don't have design skills. And what the current tools do is they all force us to have design skills, and then you have that emotional experience that I talked about earlier of just feeling inadequate. Who here thinks they use more than 10% of the features of Word or PowerPoint? Yes, sir, you get a prize. Okay. I mean, you just feel overwhelmed. I mean, I love those products because they're so powerful, and the way they have devolved was that somebody wanted this feature, so it got put in there. And so everybody uses a different slice of the product, but you always feel like there's so much control. It's both power, which I guess means value, but it's a different feeling. It's not the feeling I want to have. I want to have the feeling of confidence and success. So let's go back to this for a second. So you'll see, actually, this is actually an academic, that's an academic paper. I don't have time to do all that, so I'm going to show you. You can go look at these Sways online, some of them. So I'm going to show you a bit about how you build a Sway. And I'm going to go to My Sways. There we go. So this is actually my personal Sway account. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on here. I'm going to make a new one for us. You can also start from a PowerPoint, a Word, or even a PDF. For Word and PowerPoint, we'll actually extract the objects, the pictures, the text blocks, and so on, and we'll convert them into Sway. For PDF, we run our magical PDF to Word converter, and then we pull that into Sway. So you can actually unpack a fixed format PDF and turn it into a dynamic, interactive Sway. So I'm going to create one and show you a bit about how this works. So we actually have, I mentioned Sway is like a toddler. I don't have time to tell you all the dreams we have for what Sway could be, but I'm going to show you a little bit of what it does today, and you just have to bear with me. So what you're seeing right here is in the middle is the storyline, and the storyline is kind of the raw version of your Sway. And in fact, some people say it's the thing that lets them focus on their content, what they're trying to say. It's just text and media and the order and the grouping. It's all the structure of it. You don't worry about formatting at this stage. You just put things in here. So let's say I want to write about Tesla. That's pretty cool. And I'd like to add a picture to Sway here. What you have over this side is, open I have networking. Might take a second. Well, there we go. So what we've done is we've analyzed what you're writing about, and we're trying to figure out what are you doing? Tesla. What is Tesla? It could be Nikola Tesla, famous Serbian. It could be Tesla Motors. It could be things related to Tesla, Tesla coils, maybe Elon Musk. There's different concepts and ideas. We use a lot of big technology for this. We'll try to give you stuff that's probably related to what you're writing about. Let's say, you'll notice, by the way, if I go over here and type Tesla Motors, what will happen is in a second, it'll say, oh, you've disambiguated that for me. Now I know you're actually writing about the car company, and you'll get information. So here I get Elon Musk, which is actually kind of cool, because I want to talk about the founder or whatever, the main guy. So I'm just going to drag that in. And what you notice is behind, if I dismiss this storyline, I'm starting to construct this way. Now I didn't actually do anything to control this formatting, okay? But I really don't need to worry about what it's looking like right now. I'm going to go back over to the storyline, and I'm going to go add a piece of content. I might add some text here. This is my Sway. Now, one thing about the text editor is you might say, well, okay, where's the font and size and bold and italic and underline and subscript and superscript and colored underline and strike through and double strike through, small caps. So who wants to do that stuff? So instead what you do in Sway is you say, this word is important, so I'm going to emphasize it. Maybe Tesla Motors, I'll emphasize that one just to show you the backside. And I'll take the word this here, and I'm going to add it. So what I've done, now you see in storyline we represent that as bold and italic, but in the Sway itself, you see what's happening? Is it's just picking up and saying, well, you've told us that text should stand out, so what we're going to do is we're going to make it stand out according to the rules of the design of the Sway that you're using right now. If I don't like those, I can just hit the remix button, and what you'll see is a different way to treat that. Now you might say, oh, just style sheets, that's easy. Yeah, a little bit like style sheets, but there's actually more going on behind this. We're able to, and this feature will actually get smarter over time. Right now it's fairly rudimentary. It does use our design rules engine, but it will eventually examine what you've got in your Sway and say, you have a lot of photos, we're going to pick a layout that really looks well with photos. Or you've got a ton of text and a little bit of photos, so we're going to try a different layout for that. For now, though, it's mostly a browser of the capabilities of the app. And you see here now it's chosen to use, I don't have enough content, but it's a sideways layout. And still, the emphasized text is picking up the colors. So let me put in a couple more things, and you can sort of get a sense of how this looks. Oh, so it's suggesting stuff about Tesla Motors. So videos from YouTube, pictures from the internet, tweets, and so on. There's going to be more and more stuff. Flickr is going to show up here shortly. Wikipedia is going to show up here shortly. So some people go, ooh, you're just basically plagiarizing everything. That could be a reaction you have. A reasonable reaction. However, we're also doing, like if you think about, if you're outside of academia, That's what everybody does all the time because they're trying to get the work done. They don't really care about the originality of the work. And so we're just accelerating what people naturally do. So the other thing that's interesting, though, is when I grab this, once Wikipedia shows up, for example, it comes automatically with its citation. So you don't have to, it's hard to rip off the internet using Sway. It's not as hard as it is going to the browser and copying. We'll always keep the source of the images or text buried in the metadata, and actually it will show up if I keep going with this demo. You just have to go say, examine this object, and it'll say this is taken from this article or whatever. So eventually we'll actually generate the EndNotes bibliography citation set automatically for the Sway as well. Let's just grab a bunch of pictures for a moment. And I'm going to add those as a group. And I'm going to actually choose this button here which says, how do you want to view this group of pictures? Actually, before I do that, I'll show you what happened. So it gave a pretty interesting layout of these images according to the particular style I'm using right now. Now if I go back and select that group and say change the group type, I could choose to view them as a stack. And that's how easy it is to get an interactive pile of pictures. Right? Okay, that's kind of neat. Change the group type again. I'll like to have that as a grid. So you're really dealing with these sort of more like how you want to interact constructs rather than, imagine like dragging everything in the right place and then thinking about how it's going to work on a phone. It just blow your mind, right? So we'll take care of this. In fact, I didn't show you that. I'm going to show you what this might look like on a phone. And you'll see we've actually already formatted it for the different layout of the phone. Everything's been resized, restacked. The grid is not some fixed, 2x2 or whatever. We did a 1x4 because it fits the space better. In fact, we can go even farther into that and say, let me give this space back here. So let's say, too many pictures of Elon Musk here, but anyway, so I like, this is an interesting picture, but I don't maybe like the way it's cropped so much, so I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to show you now really the essence of how Sway works. Yes, we could probably do a manual crop, but how are you going to deal with that in different layout orientations? That's kind of an old school way of thinking about cropping images. The new way to think about it is, what's important in this image? In fact, you get some examples at the bottom. When we do a long flat crop for style reasons, it's going to look like that. On a phone, it might look like that. Now I'm just going to tap this guy's face, and he's going to become the center of the photo. He's the thing that matters. But maybe I also want, I don't know, the back of this chair here down in the corner. And you notice what this cropping engine is going to try to do now is it's going to try to fit in the parts that you said were important. And in every layout that the Sway will end up in, it's going to do its best to keep the parts that you really care about in view. And we do that instead of a hard crop, because that's just not going to work in so many cases. So you kind of get the sense of what we're trying to do in Sway here is, we call this an intentional interface. I also call it what you get is what you want, instead of what you see is what you get. What you get is what you want means I'm getting the things that I tell it I want. I'm saying keep these things together. I'm saying emphasize this object. I don't want to have to decide all the pieces of formatting in order to get that output. So I could keep going, but I think I'm going to run out of time, and I want to take some questions. So are there any thoughts about Sway or questions you have for me about anything? Yeah. Yes, here.
Can you put your own content in?
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay.
I didn't actually show one quick thing. I'll show you then. I didn't show you the whole feature. You can do insert from your local machine,
Okay.
OneDrive, OneNote, YouTube, anywhere you like. There's a
So
whole bunch of services.
your
that
own
you can-
pictures, like you
Your
can-
own pictures from
Okay.
from online services or your hard drive. Yes, for sure.
Perfect.
Yes, in the very back.
In the search function, can you constrain it to search, for example, for only Creative Commons or copyright-free or images that are able to be modified without permission?
You probably can't read this. Search results are images tagged with Creative Commons licenses. Click here to clear that if you really want to take your own risks. So, yes, you can filter to Creative Commons, and then, sorry, the second part was?
Images that are able to be modified without permission.
Right. There's, depending on the source, we do or don't have to do that. So some sources, their images are available, and we're actually working right now to figure out, can we get access to large libraries that are just free and clear and you don't have to do anything with it? In the meantime, the shortcut we took is This is a Creative Commons tag, so, yeah. Yes?
One of the things I've noticed recently, I've done a few presentations playing with this. I think of my presentations differently. In PowerPoint, I always felt like I had to go through every single part of it. But when I'm using Sway, I can put more content than I need. And for the audience I'm working with, or the students that you're working with, you can really just choose what you want to without feeling like you're skipping over things.
Yeah. Exactly. Yes. Actually, it's that non-linearity and freedom is part of what we're trying to make pop out of this. And I showed you that Red Panda thing, right? That's just one of many topologies of information we could use. Some of them, a lot of stories and presentations need a strong linearity, but what they like is the ability to temporarily divert and come back onto it. So we want to enable that, pure linear and random access and everything in between. Yes?
Is this automatically saved?
It is automatically saved to the cloud, and every Sway has its own URL. Yeah.
Okay. I know if I do it with my class, my students are going to say, well, it did automatically save.
It does automatically save, and from any Sway you can share it. It defaults, in the consumer version, it defaults to saying if you've got the link, you can see the Sway. You can lock it down to just yourself if you really want to keep it private, or you can actually make it submit it to search engines, which is this top option. When we enable it for Office 365, which is our institutional offering, then you'll be able to lock it down to your institution as well.
Hey, good.
Over here? Yeah, okay, yes.
What about offline access?
What about offline? Coming real soon. We actually have an iPhone app right now, I should say. We're going to have native apps for Windows, Windows Phone, Android someday, iPhone, iPad. We have iPhone already. When we get a chance to do it, which is very soon, we'll start to have offline using the native apps, but not the word browser. Yes, here? First row, or second row?
Does it support peer collaborative editing? It's going to be perfect for peer discussion and quick presentation purpose in classroom.
Yeah, so we support co-authoring. Currently up to 10 authors at the same time in the same session. We'll raise that number probably over time. But you can just click this and you get an edit link and you send that to other people, and then they will have access to that Sway and they can author without.
That's amazing. How do you differentiate different users' inputs? Color-coded or?
That part is not super developed. Right now you can see that somebody's typing here and you get their initials, but we don't currently do the full record everything and color code who wrote what. It's just so you can see that Mike is here and Hiroshi's over here, just so you know what's going on. But it's pretty basic, but it works for all the normal scenarios. We're still technically preview, so I use that as an excuse for why everything.
Hi, I just wanted to know if there's any other way to integrate this with Blackboard other than copying the URL and posting it directly, and the same thing with Mix in terms of trying to take advantage of the LMS systems that many of us have.
Yeah. So we're currently looking into that. We need to go understand what all the different hookup systems are. And we're really looking for the magical connector that we just connect to and then everybody works with us rather than having to do one-off for everything. Mm-hmm. But we're sort of in progress right now, but yes, it'll come.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's thank Chris again for